Hello everyone and welcome to MasterExcelNow. I thank everyone for being a part of Excel for Beginners Chapter 1 that we posted yesterday. Today we continue our journey for Excel for Beginners Chapter 2. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to work with multiple sheets, enter basic data in Excel, how to format that data so that it becomes readable and can be processed for information. During this chapter, we will also touch base on some basic functions that can be used in your day-to-day Excel work. I look forward to your comments and suggestions, which is very much appreciated to make the videos better. Thank you, and let's begin to our chapter. It's going to be a fun day.
So let's continue with our chapter, Excel for Beginners, chapter 2. First thing that we'd learn today is sheets. So when you open up Excel, by default in the older versions, you get three sheets, namely sheet 1, 2, and 3. In the newer version, you only get one sheet. However, you can add as many sheets as you want. So in order to add a sheet, you need to click on your Home tab, go to Insert, and then Insert Sheet. You can also do the same by going to the extreme left corner where it says the name of the sheet and click the plus sign right there. In order to delete a sheet, you can do is select the sheet you want to delete, go to delete and then press delete sheet, or you can right click on the sheet and click delete. So if you noticed, we just deleted two sheets and there was no warning whatsoever from the Excel. However, let's add a new sheet and add some random data. Now, if I go ahead and say delete sheet, Microsoft Excel will permanently delete the sheet. Do you want to continue? Once you click delete, this sheet and its data will be gone, and this cannot be recovered. This is not a change that you can undo. Now, once you have multiple sheets, it's going to become quite tedious if you do not name them correctly. So imagine if you have 15 sheets and you cannot have sheet 1, 2, 3, and 4 because then if you were going to go ahead and edit them, you would not know which sheet to go to. So in an ideal case, you should always name your sheet with the data that they store in. For example, I want to store my client data into this sheet. So I can rename it as client data. Now, how do I rename it? Is very simple. Just double click on the sheet name and give it a new name. So here I want to see, let's say, credit card info. Or you can select the sheet, go to Format on your Home tab, and click Rename Sheet. And here you would say, let's say, customer usage. So now, if you know that you're looking for customer usage, you have a sheet here. If you're looking for credit card information, you have a sheet here. If you're looking for client data, then you have a sheet here. This becomes relatively easy to remember and use as a reference point when working with larger data sets. We will touch base with sheet names again in the future chapters. You can delete multiple sheets by selecting them. Either you can press the Shift key and click the first and the last sheet, or you can press the Control key and click on the sheets that you want to delete. Once you have selected the sheets, right-click on the sheet name and press Delete. That's one of the options. Or you can go to Home and then click on Delete, and here you have Delete Sheets. So all the selected sheets will be deleted. Something very interesting that I'd like to share now is the length of sheet name cannot exceed 31 characters. It includes spaces and everything else. And believe me, in my experience working with Excel, I've never seen anybody use that large of a sheet name. So this is pretty much with the sheets. Let's go to working with data and how to format it. Now, On screen, you see you have some data, but this is too cramped, so I cannot read the complete content of the cell. And in this case, I don't know what this number 3.14e plus 09 means. But when I click on the cell, I get to see a full number here. So first thing I need to do is I need to give my cells enough space so that their content can be shown. Now I can do that by multiple ways. So let me show you the first one. When I click on Ethan, I select the cell by clicking on it, go to Format, and here it says Auto Fit Column Width. I will click on that. So it did. Now I can read Ethan, Olivia, Noah, but I cannot read Emma completely because part of Emma's last character A is missing. And here, William is not readable completely. So what I did just now was I gave Ethan, cell A2, enough space to show Ethan, nothing else. In order for me to show everybody enough spaces, I can select my column by clicking on A and then go to Format and then say Auto Fit Column Width. Now you see everything is shown. I can do the same by selecting multiple columns and go to Format and say Auto Fit Column Width. So this was one way of doing it. The other way, let me undo the changes. The other way of doing it is I can select my column completely. And then when I move my cursor on the column bar from A to B, you see it changes into a plus sign. I will just double click and it will auto fit the content. I can repeat this step, or I can sell two columns and then I can click here and it will do the same. You can do a similar change for rows as well. So let's say my rows are a little crammed, they're not able to show data. So what I can do is I can select the rows and double click, and here it will start showing the data. Now that your data is all settled, you can see all the text, all the numbers, and the height and width has been fixed. Let's start with the basics of formatting. So the first row is usually considered as the header. A header defines what content are below it. So here, for example, my header is first name. It tells the person or the reader that I have the first name listed here. The last names listed here because it says last name in the top row. So top row is considered as a header which will define what type of content is there. It could be a number, it could be text, it could be sentences, and what do they refer to is what comes here as a header. A good way of working with the headers is to make sure that the headers are highlighted. So you can highlight them with a color. So just select the cell that you want to highlight or select a range of cells, go to your Home tab, and where it says Font, and here you have a bucket icon called Fill Color. So when you click on the small triangle right here, so you have a lot of colors to choose from, and you can choose a color. What it does is it helps you identify your header instantaneously because your eyes and your brain are mapped in such a way that they can notice this much faster than anything else. Right. So next we're going to see is formatting. So let's give some format to the first row. I want it to be in italics, and let's change the font. I want it to be in a different font, let's say Arial Narrow, and I want to shorten the font size to 18. Now that I've made changes to my text, but the other text needs to be done again. So the easier way would have been I would have selected my entire text and said, okay, I'm going to do Arial Narrow, italics, and then let's say a font size of 18. So that was one way of going about it. But if this needs to be done in multiple sheets, or there's a data which is too huge to be selected at the same time, The easier way is you do it on the first few cells on the first row, and then you select the entire row, go to your Home tab, and on the very first group called Clipboard, there is a Format Painter. Format Painter, what it does is it copies the format, not the content. And when you click it on the other data, it will paste that on the content in those cells. So now when I click Format Painter and bring my mouse to the next row, which is A3, and I click, so you see the entire row got changed. It is because I had selected the same row length. If I had selected only two cells like here, and I click Format Painter, now if I click on Noah Davis, you see it only changed the two cells. It did not change this. The other factor that you need to consider is when we select a range and we click Format Painter once, the moment you click it anywhere on your data, see your mouse goes back. I'll show it to you again. When I click on Format Painter, there is a brush right next to the plus sign on my mouse. The moment I click it here, the brush size goes back. There's no brush sign anymore. In order to do multiple rows, what I can do is I can select my range and double click on the Format Painter. And now I can click, 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 and the brush will remain there until I go ahead and either click the Format Painter again or press the Escape key on my keyboard. So I clicked and I'm back to the normal cursor. Now you can also do this change by using the shortcut key. So I want this data format to go onto all the cells. So what I do is I will click Format Painter once. On my keyboard, I'm going to use Control Shift down arrow and it will paste the format to all the rows below. The other way is if you don't want to use the double click, select your range, click Format Painter, click and drag to the end of the range and it will format it. So Format Painter will become quite useful because it's used quite often in data when you're working with them, and it's quite impressive as well. So before we close our video, I'd like to share a quick Excel trick, a functionality which can be used by the new users. This functionality is available only in the new versions. I'm sorry, it is not there in the older versions. So right click on the cell and here it says search the menus. What it means is you can search any of these functions in the home, insert, draw, or any other tab on top or the groups within. So let's say I want to search insert, and then you see it starts giving you the options. Now insert was a drop down. So when I click here, it will give you the drop downs as well. So here it says insert sheet. If I search delete, it will give you the option to delete rows, duplicates, columns, delete cells. So it's quite a handy thing for new users because learning and remembering every place is going to be a little tough in the beginning. But as you practice and use Excel more, believe me, it's going to be like driving from day 1 to day 100. You don't get to see the gears again. I hope you like the video content. I am more than happy to hear from you on the comment. That will really help us to improvise our video content and make it more enjoyable, more learnable by all of you. Looking forward for your feedback on that. Thank you. Have a nice day.